We have just seen that Hansen and colleagues developed emission scenarios to describe possible futures. This enabled Hansen to explore future climate change and to argue why mitigation is important. Since then, this approach to exploring future climate change has become far more sophisticated. In the 1990s, the IPCC published the Special Report on Emissions Scenarios. These scenarios were constructed to explore future developments in the global environment. They had storylines, 4 in total, that highlighted the main scenario characteristics and dynamics and the relationships between key driving forces. The 4 storylines combined 2 sets of divergent tendencies. One set varying between strong economic values and strong environmental values, the other set between increasing globalization and increasing regionalization. The most recent attempt to narrate future climate change is the development of a scenario matrix architecture. This scenario framework was used in the recent 6th assessment report of the IPCC. The construction of this framework was 2-pronged. First, a set of representative concentration pathways, or RCPs, were developed that describe different levels of greenhouse gases and other radiative forcings that might occur in the future. These pathways were developed to span a broad range of radiative forcing in 2100. The radiative forcings range from 1.9 to 8.5 watts per meter squared. Second, a set of shared socioeconomic pathways, or SSPs, were developed that described how socioeconomic factors may change over the century. These factors include population, economic growth, education, urbanization, and the rate of technological development. In total, 5 different pathways have been developed that describe how the world might evolve in the absence of climate policy. The scenario matrix is formed when the different climate change mitigation targets described in the representative concentration pathways are combined with the shared socioeconomic pathways. So what are these narratives of the future captured in the SSPs? The first narrative, SSP1, describes a world of sustainability-focused growth and equality. Titled Sustainability Taking the Green Road, SSP1 narrates a future in which the world shifts gradually toward a more sustainable path, emphasizing more inclusive development that respects perceived environmental boundaries. The second narrative, SSP2, describes a world where trends broadly follow their historical patterns. Titled Middle of the Road, SSP2 narrates a future in which the world follows a path in which social, economic and technological trends do not shift markedly from historical patterns. The third narrative, SSP3, describes a fragmented world of resurgent nationalism. Titled Regional Rivalry, a Rocky Road, SSP3 narrates a future in which the world descends into resurgent nationalism, where concerns about competitiveness and security and regional conflicts push countries to increasingly focus on domestic issues. The fourth narrative, SSP4, describes a world of ever-increasing inequality. Titled Inequality, a Road Divided, SSP4 narrates a future in which highly unequal investments in human capital, combined with increasing disparities in economic opportunity and political power, lead to increasing inequalities and stratification both across and within countries. The fifth narrative, SSP5, describes a world of rapid and unconstrained growth in economic output and energy use. Titled Fossil Fuel Development, Taking the Highway, SSP5 narrates a future in which the world places increasing faith in competitive markets, innovation and participatory societies to produce rapid technological progress and development of human capital as the path to sustainable development. These narratives describe alternative pathways for future society. They present baselines of how things would look in the absence of climate policy, and allow researchers to examine barriers and opportunities for climate mitigation and adaptation in each possible future world when combined with mitigation targets. In this figure, we can see how these narratives are expressed in terms of their assumptions on global population growth access to education, urbanisation, economic growth, and levels of inequality. SSP1 and SSP5 envision relatively optimistic trends for human development, with substantial investments in education and health, rapid economic growth, and well-functioning institutions. They differ in that SSP5 assumes this will be driven by an energy-intensive fossil fuel-based economy, while in SSP1 there is an increasing shift towards sustainable practices. SSP3 and SSP4 are more pessimistic in their future economic and social development, with little investment in education or health in poorer countries, coupled with a fast-growing population and increasing inequalities. SSP2 represents a middle-of-the-road scenario in which historical patterns of development are continued throughout the 21st century. This figure shows how CO2 concentrations will evolve under different SSPs in order to meet certain mitigation targets described by the RCPs. The RCP 1.9 and RCP 2.6 pathways require very stringent mitigation efforts and will require negative net carbon emissions to kick in around the middle of the century in order to reduce CO2 concentrations. These two pathways are shown here achieved using the SSP1 narrative. Note that the RCP 1.9 pathway is the only pathway that supports a mitigation target in which warming is limited to below 1.5 degrees Celsius. The less stringent RCP 4.5, RCP 7.0 and RCP 8.5 pathways have been achieved under the SSP2, SSP3 and SSP5 narratives respectively. Can all representative concentration pathways be achieved under all shared socioeconomic pathways? The answer is no. This figure shows a combination of SSP and RCP model runs. The RCPs listed in order of increasing mitigation and SSPs in the rough order of increasing mitigation difficulty. The ratios in each cell indicate the number of models that succeeded in making the scenario work out of the total number of models used. Note that the models have significant difficulty in achieving RCP 1.9 and RCP 2.6 targets in either an SSP3 world or an SSP5 world. The RCP 1.9 mitigation target can only be achieved by all models used under an SSP1 narrative. These scenarios give us the necessary information to force climate models and to help us determine what future worlds will look like, what the effect on climate will be in these possible future narratives. Thanks for listening.